All right, hello. My name is Osborne, and this is my submission for Lightmatter any percent no major glitches into SGDQ 2024. The last time that this was shown off was AGDQ 2021, and that was online, so this will be the first time that this game will be shown off in person. And there's been a lot of developments in the 3 years that this game has had since it was last shown off. And so there's going to be certain exploits, certain skips, certain tricks that we're going to be seeing here that weren't present in the original. And so because of those two things, the new developments and the in-person factor, I think this is an amazing showcase. The audience is going to have a great time with it. There's going to be timestamps in the description for all the cool moments in the run, all the different tricks and skips that we're going to be explaining and doing, and really nice and eye-catching moments that the audience will enjoy. We're going to be analyzing and commentating my 4406 IGT 4418 RTA, the most recent PB of this run, and timing will begin once we enter the very first level right now. Perfect. So with that being said, what is Lightmatter? What are we getting ourselves into? What kind of game is this? Well, Lightmatter is a first-person puzzle platformer, maybe very heavily inspired by like the Portal games. And so the main mechanic behind this game is that the shadows will kill you. And anytime you step into a shadow, you will die. There are certain exceptions to that, both intentional and unintentional, and we're going to get into that once we encounter them in the run. These first two levels, however, are primarily just like tutorial sequences, as is typical with any game, and so it's going to be introducing us to the basic movements and basic mechanics, such as running, jumping, interacting with stuff, all that jazz. Even in these first levels, you can see that there's some minor optimizations, such as jumping upstairs in order to preserve momentum, preserve speed, because your speed does decrease ever so slightly when you like walk upstairs, so that's why we want to jump up them. We're going to be cutting corners right here and making sure that we're trying to avoid any ledge grab animations onto platforms whenever possible, because of course those eat away at time bit by bit. And so even in these first levels, you're going to see small optimizations that we're going to really take into account that add up seconds throughout the run. And so with this, we're in this next room. This is our main antagonist, Virgil. He is kind of like the disembodied voice of this story, and the main villains, kind of like GLaDOS. But in this case, we can see that he does have a body right there in the shadows. But this is the only time that we're actually going to see him. The rest is just going to be over a megaphone in our ear the entire run. So with that being said, we're going to go straight through here, and you can see that this is kind of like a small example of how like this main level is supposed to be a tutorial sequence, because you're going to see me jump into like these shadows right here on the top. You can see all these shadows on the top of these lockers and stuff, and these tables. None of them will kill you, even though in other circumstances or other levels that amount of shadow would, because there's no death planes programmed into these first two levels. It's really just a tutorial. They don't want you to die. They don't want you to like get frustrated too easily. And so, with that being said, you can see there's some really nice optimization movements when it comes to jumping upstairs and pressing those buttons. Even in this game, even in like a category such as no major glitches, there is a really like a plethora of skips and like amazingly satisfying movement, both to see and to do. And so that's kind of like where the run shines a lot of the time. In all the things that we even managed to skip, even with the limited rule set that we have of like not exploiting huge glitches. And so that being said, that's pretty much like the end of the run. We're just gonna go up this elevator and like nothing's gonna happen, and we're just gonna go to safety. This is gonna be actually like a 40-minute world record. There's nothing bad that could possibly happen in the next few seconds. This elevator will not crash. We're just gonna go to safety, and that's it. That's all we need. But of course, we are not going to go in safety. The game has to game, the plot has to plot, and we as the main character are going to be crashing down this elevator in a crash that should definitely kill us, but we're not going to die because, of course, we're the main character. We've got a game to run. So, with that being said, that's the end of the first two levels. From here on out, in level 3, and level 3 onward, where every single time that we touch a shadow, we're going to die. With specific exceptions. Very specific exceptions. But that being said, we're going to wake up, and somehow we are unharmed by that. Who knows? But we're going to be kind of holding left and just spamming jump so that we can go immediately over to the left without being blocked by this barrier here. And we're just going to go straight into it. As you can see, you can finally interact with a lot of shadows, with like large masses of shadows in this next section. This light is going to turn off, and we're going to like have a timing method here. 3, 2, 1. As soon as you see those flashing lights, you want to immediately jump, and you'll be able to do that in the fastest way possible in a single cycle. So this next level, level 4, is actually the first time that we encounter like a proper skip. A really cool skip at that. We're going to be taking advantage of the way that this game handles the momentum preservation with these bridges. So we're going to bring this bridge to the right, and then to the left, and then to the right again. And because when we bring it over to the right a second time, it's going to have a little bit of delay because it just went to the left. And so that gives us enough time to go to the bridge underneath it, and we'll get to the other side before the bridge above it covers us in shadow. And so we can skip pretty much about half of the full puzzle in that room. Right here in level 5, we're just going to skip the entire puzzle by doing that. You can barely land on that little piece of rock that'll allow us to just get straight to the end of the level. And so now we're going to go into level 6. Level 6 is a cycle-based level, but it's also the first level in which we are introduced to the main mechanic of the game, which is using light, or in this case, lamps. The lamps just kind of snap in front of you. They have a cone of light, and it'll allow you to light up your path so you don't die of the shadows. And so right here, we can see that thankfully we're able to get the fast cycle right here without having to stop. We can just go ahead and land on these on this light with the tram that's going on. So very good movement there. In level 7, we're going to have another skip, and it's actually the first time that we are going to be exploiting a glitch that we have allowed in No Major Glitches. And so there's going to be a really nice and satisfying skip to do, a really cool one as well, that kind of messes with the physics of this game. And so we're going to be taking this lamp right here, and we're going to be launching it in the middle of that vent, and then jumping on top of it. And for some reason, when you launch the lamp into that vent, the physics of the game gets messed up, and so when you jump on top of it, you kind of get boosted upwards, and then you're able to land on that platform up above that you saw that didn't have any shadow on it, and reload your jump to jump over the small bit of shadow that was there and go immediately to the end of the level. That skips a solid like 7 to 11 seconds of movement and lamp placements and puzzle solving that we can just like overcome entirely. So level 8 is a level that I like to say where it really showcases how impressive and how optimized a lot of the movement in this game is, even for a category that's as long as around 45 minutes, because there's a lot of really nice optimizations. You have to be careful with your lamp placements. You have to be careful with where you shine your lamp. Make sure that you're not using your lamp as much as you can, mainly because your movement speed does slow down when you hold a lamp because you're heavy and clunky, as Virgil explained when we first got the lamp. And so you're not able to jump, and you can move slower. So you want to have a lamp in your hand as little as possible, but at the same time, they're the most important, and one of the most important mechanics in this game, so that you don't die. And so that's level 8. It's another level where I think it showcases how satisfying a lot of the movement in this game is, and so that it really shines through in that level, and it'll shine through in a lot of other levels as well, including this level, in which we try to have one skip here, in which we were trying to skip half of a cycle, but thankfully, if you die, that doesn't really like reset the cycles or anything. It'll just spawn you back, but everything else in the room keeps moving. And so that death, while it may look like it like lost more time than it actually did, it only lost like less than half of a second, because all we did, it would be functionally the same as if you missed the cycle, and it only skips half of a cycle if you got the skip in the first place. So with that being said, we're going to go straight here, and shine these lamps along each other. You want to be really careful with how you place your lamps, because you want to kind of place them in a location that allows us to have the most optimal movement, such as in the corner right here. But of course, you don't want to shine too little of the platform, otherwise you're going to die in the shadows. And this is the level that kind of introduces the idea that you can leave shadows in the dark, because the only things that the shadows will eat up will be organic material, meaning in this case just you, because there's no other example of that in the run where it's just like they eat up another human being or any other plants, and so it'll eat up you. So anything that's like a machine, lamp in this case, or other objects that we can interact with, those are completely safe to put in shadows, and that's kind of something that this level introduces. So, with that being said, this is like our first small breather of the run, in which we can see this cutscene. You can see that in the right side over there, it actually is possible to like get over there. But of course, that leaves you like kind of not soft lock because you can just die and respawn over here, but you are like kind of forced to die if you want to get over here to the end. And so I don't do it when grinding because I want to be accurate in my death count, but I always like to show it off in like marathons just because it doesn't affect anything in the run and you don't have to and like he doesn't lose any time. It's just a wonderful thing to show off. But with that being said, we're just waiting here for this cutscene to end because we're going to be jumping straight into the doors right here that are going to open up a small path. Virgil right now is talking to James, who is sad because he can't find his cat. And so that's a small little lore update for you. James is kind of like his assistant that helps Virgil and everything. But of course, Virgil being the evil CEO that he is, we know that that's not a good thing. So level 11 is another cycle-based level. For some reason, in like my like history of running this game, there was a moment in which like this specific like level would be for some reason really difficult for me. Like I would always get the cycles off, and I would always like have a little bit of difficulty with my movement and my jumping. But thankfully now, you really should be able to take your time in this level because there's not a lot you can do to like speed up the cycles as faster than we've already been able to speed them up. And so everything you're doing here, everything that we're doing right here is like the earliest time that we can get any of these cycles. And so we're going to be facing the lamp that way so that it moves back and forth with the platform. And right here you can see we're able to just move with the shadows. This is kind of the first introduction with moving shadows and moving light as well. And right here, we're actually going to be doing a little bit of an exploit where the game has like a designated start and stop point for each level when you retry. And so there's like an elevator sequence. And so the moment we enter level 12, we're going to retry and it'll allow us to skip the entire elevator sequence. And right now, we are going to be rail grinding across here instead of like doing the level normally. When you grind across rails, it's actually harder than it looks because the game tries to like push you off either side. And so you kind of have to balance yourself. It's like for advanced runners, it becomes much more natural and much more easy to do. But when you're first starting off, it's like really difficult because like you want to be able to balance that and you want to maintain your straight lines as well throughout there. And now we're at level 13. We got introduced to a new character. Her name is Ellen. And so Ellen was kind of like the voice of reason. We're going to be seeing her every single time that we're in this like pinkish area, this like underground area with like different fans and different kinds of puzzles in an area that where Virgil cannot hear us because it's all maintenance and stuff. So right here you can see that we're taking advantage of these blades. You can see there's a little bit of shadow there that I walked over, and that's because like the way that the shadows work in this game is that there are certain points around your feet, and if a certain amount of points around your feet are covered up in shadow, you will die, and that's just enough to like barely not die in that specific part. And so right here, we're going to be doing another wonderful skip in level 14, where we're going to be bringing these lamps in a very specific sequence because we want them to be shining towards us at all times so that we don't die. And right here, we're going to be placing this lamp right there, and we're going to be standing on the very, very edge of the fan so that we can move with it. Otherwise, if you're too close to the edge, it'll like push you off. And that allows us to skip a lot of puzzle solving and a lot of lamp placements because we're able to face this lamp here so that we can shine onto this ramp, and then we're going to be able to take the second lamp and shine it onto this bridge up here so that we can immediately just end the level right there. That's a solid time save and a very nice execution for me on that end. And so a very important thing to have in the run as much as you can. And so now we're going to be going back to where Virgil was because we're now in like the open area where he can actually hear us. And we're going to be in this level, we kind of make use of the fact that we can use like the full cone of light to activate two sensors at the same time. There is a small skip that we could do here, but we haven't really declared if it's like legal for no major glitches. And so we're going to be opting out of that for now, just for the sake of future-proofing this kind of run. And so right here, we're going to be doing very satisfying movement, one of the most satisfying movements in this game, going straight up through this elevator. And then we're going to be doing a small skip here, taking advantage of the fact that the lamp just kind of snaps in front of you, and you're able to jump onto the lights before the door behind you closes and kills you with the shadows. And so that's a very useful skip. It skips a solid amount of puzzle solving. In this level, we do a small skip, and so it'll save some lamp placements and some movements. And we're going to be facing, you want to make sure that this sensor is has at least one lamp facing it at all times so that it's on. We're going to have that cone. We're going to use the full cone of light in order to shine both hallways, both on the left and right side. You want to make sure that as you're moving forward, that lamp is still shining onto that sensor. Otherwise, the door will close and Virgil will laugh at you. And now in level 18 and 19, we're going to be pretty much doing the exact same skip, but done in two different ways. And now in this first level, we're just going to be shining, bringing this second lamp over. As soon as it shines into that sensor, we can move. And we're going to be taking this lamp, and we're going to be shining it in a very specific spot over on that wall to the far end of the room, facing it this way, so that it just barely shines onto these tables, and it'll barely have like enough light on us so that we don't die. And the same thing is going to be happening here in this level. Unfortunately, in this run, there's only two deaths. One we already saw. This first one was the first attempt here in mistiming the jump. But now, in this section, we're doing the exact same thing we saw in level 18, shining the light onto these cylinders and timing our jumps very precisely in order to get to the end of the room and jump over all the shadows that could have killed us. And those are very difficult jumps. Very difficult jumps. They make it look easy. I make it look easy, but it's much more precise and difficult than it looks. Right here in level 20, we're taking advantage of the fact that like you only have to be within like grabbing distance of a lamp. You don't have to be on the same like height plane, and so we're able to grab that lamp and skip a lot of the back and forth movement that the game intends on you doing in order to solve that puzzle. And so we can just grab the lamp while it's on top of the table, or it's slightly below us, so that we can just immediately skip to this part of the puzzle. And this is the first level that kind of introduces the concept of strafing with lamps. And it's funny because like in the play tests of this game, this is the first level that strafes, and the playtesters could not really figure out that you had to strafe with the lamps, and this level does it twice. And so that's a nice introduction to that kind of mechanic there. As you can see, we're getting gold after gold after gold in this level, or in this run, and so a wonderful time back with this game I've had. And now here in level 21, we're just going to be doing pretty precise movement. It mainly acts as a like waypoint between level 20 and 22. There's not major puzzles here. It's just act as a transitional area. But in level 22 is actually the biggest level in the game that's like an actual puzzle. The very last level is just a really long escape sequence, and so there's not much like puzzle solving here. And so this is the biggest puzzle in the game, the longest puzzle in the game. Right here, we're going to be jumping onto the light to have some small time saves here. But essentially in this bottom floor, there's two platforms and two lamps that each go back and forth in these tracks right here. And so we're going to be shining that light directly onto the left pathway here in a very specific way, because we're going to be coming back to this floor later. And in the top floor, there's still two lamps, but now that there's four platforms all kind of go in a rotation. And so you have to keep in mind where all of the lamps are playing casually. Of course, we as speedrunners know exactly what to do and how to do it, but it can be very disorienting, and you need to make sure that you're not on autopilot a lot of the times in this game. We're going to be taking this lamp, taking it off the platform, because we want to keep it shining right here where we are. We don't want it coming towards us. Instead, we're going to be bringing in the second lamp over here through that platform with the rotation, grabbing it here and then pointing it towards this final area so we can get into this last room for level 22. Now, this is the the third time that we've been promised freedom and salvation from this underground corporation. Will it happen? Let's find out. Surely there's nothing bad that will happen in the middle of this elevator. Of course it crashes though, because why wouldn't it? We need to make sure that someone checks out these elevators, because quite clearly they're crashing just everywhere. And Of course, we kind of like play on the joke. We like to play on the joke that like every single time that we see and Virgil says, "Oh, see you on the other side. We're going to be finally going to safety." That's going to happen. Maybe one day it will. It won't. But now we're going to go straight back into level 22. This is like the second half of it after we have all of that movement that we did at first. We're going to be going back to the first floor over here, and we're going to be shining this light back over here. We're going to kind of be doing the puzzle pretty much in reverse, and so that we can shine that light over there. And now we're going to be bringing them back towards us so we can shine this light towards the entrance and then we can leave. We're going to be going back. It's the same map as level 21, but it's going to be labeled as level 23. And level 23 itself actually has a really cool and really free skip that we can do. You can see that there's like been developer commentary here, and all of these files are developer commentary files we've been like picking up that you've seen me, all these speech bubbles that we've been picking up. And so we actually do it specifically for this level because if you pick up the developer commentary in this level, you're able to skip a line that Virgil has because the door that we just entered is actually supposed to trigger open when Virgil finishes his line. But if you pick up the director's commentary, it just cuts the line off and it'll open the door immediately. So it's a nice like free like 20-second dev intended time save for us right there. But we just have like the dev commentary on since the beginning of the run just to save some menuing time. And right here, we're about halfway through the run, and we're getting introduced to a new mechanic known as the orbs, or the photon crystals, as they're formally called. But we're going to call them orbs on a stick for the sake of this run, for the sake of the GDQ meme. And so right here, these orbs, you can see that as long as they're within range or within sight of a mother source being that object hanging from the ceiling right there, they're able to have a beam of light shining underneath you the entire time. And so you're able to connect these lights like we see here, piece by piece. You can triangulate some of the light sources, and as long as one orb is connected to the mother source, you can keep making chains and keep going to solve puzzles like that. And so a very clever mechanic, a very like creative mechanic when it comes to light and how it works, and a nice break from the lamp. So we're going to be incorporating both of them into succession later. In this level 25, we're actually seeing a nice skip. We put that lamp over there in a very specific spot. You can see that it's very red. That means the connection between two orbs, or an orb and the mother source, is about to break. But we did it in a very specific way so that we can actually skip a lot of the real puzzle solving in this level and kind of push the limits as to how far these orbs and their connections can go. And so that movement you just saw right there saved like a solid 20 seconds over the intended time save. And so right here, you also saw us do a little bit of rail grinding to save some momentum from the moving platform we were on, and just because our natural movement speed is faster than the platform itself. And so right here, we're going to be doing level 26. Level 26 also has a really cool skip. And so we're going to be kind of bringing this forward and stopping it halfway so we can just jump on it. You have to wait for it to come all the way through. And this is the first example of a moving mother source, and that's very important for the specific skip we're going to be doing. We're going to leave this mother source here and bring this orb with us. We're going to be placing it right there on the top left corner of that platform. And we're going to be pushing this orb across the fence so that it connects with that mother source we put on the other side of the room. You can see that rail grinding section right there. That rail was covered in shadow. For some reason, there's not enough points around our feet in that specific section to kill us, even though in other like rails there are. But that allows us to actually bring the orbs right there to what you saw, and able to take the initial orb and kind of move it over to the other side, really pushing the connections, because you can see that the lights were pretty red, but that movement specifically we actually were able to use in order to save like a solid 20 seconds of puzzle solving right there. And so kind of like abusing the real limits of how far we can put these orbs and how far the connections can go without breaking. We kind of exploit that a lot in this game. And so in level 27, you can see that this kind of like an auto walker, as we like to call it, only because like this is the intended solution but fast. We haven't really found like a huge skip for it, but you also want to make sure that at any point there's also always at least one orb or one mother source connected to the orb that you're carrying. Otherwise, the floor will go dark and you'll die. Right here in level 28, we're going to get back into a really cool skip. We're going to be bringing this orb over this bridge and then moving the bridge to the other side of the room. And then bringing this orb over here. And we're going to take this orb and we're going to be putting it in a very specific spot. And that'll be the very, very corner right here of this platform. We want to do that because we want to bring this orb. It doesn't really matter where you put it now, but we're going to be bringing the bridge back through, putting the orb on it, and once we bring the orb to the other side, you can see that that mother source will connect to the initial orb on the corner, and we're going to be putting this orb right here. It barely just has enough like distance between the next source of light so that you can just jump onto that little sliver of light, and instead of having to, you know, actually do the puzzle. And so that's another wonderful skip that we have here. Level 29 is another level where it kind of feels like it's kind of like an auto walker. We don't like to call things auto scrollers because, of course, there's nothing that's really a true auto scroller in this game. And so we call it auto walkers because it's just the intended solution, but fast. And, you know, we have it memorized to the point where it just becomes second nature to us. But this is kind of like the also like story lore drop here, where it also shows that like Lightmatter as a whole can like speed up photosynthesis and stuff like that, and all the good things that Lightmatter will do for the world. And right there, you also saw an example of like a little bug that can happen with the orbs, which if you put them either like it's too close to each other or just in specific spots on the floor, for some reason like their hitboxes kind of get messed up and you're not able to really interact with them until one of them like moves out of the way of the other. It's strange. But you know, we deal with it as speedrunners, and we do the best we can to manage it. It does suck when it happens, but you know, we're able to recover. And so right here we're going to the tail end of level 29. Of course, it's also a level that kind of introduces the idea that like when you press a button, it kind of has a delay on whatever effect that it's doing, and so you're able to just press the button and then go through the door. Virgil likes to call you a reckless cat as you do it, because you're able to just solve that before it happens. And so now we're going to be going straight into level 30. Level 30, while it is another level that's kind of like the intended solution, but fast, it's still pretty impressive and still something you have to pay attention to a lot, only because this is a level that can really mess up with your muscle memory, because you want to first off press this button twice and then get to the other orb on the other side of the room. And you don't want your brain to go on autopilot. There have been moments in which my brain just goes on autopilot. I stop paying attention to what I'm doing and I lose time unnecessarily because I press a button one too many times. And you want to press this button 3 times, and then you want to take the orb off of the platform, press the button once more, put the orb back on, and then press it twice. So you can see that there's a lot of like specific numbers of things that you have to do in a specific order. And so while they might sound simple and easy, in theory it should be, but it's also a moment in which like you can let your brain go on autopilot a lot. And then if you do one too many moves or one too many button presses, the platform is going to have to go through an entire other cycle again, and you're going to be losing time unnecessarily. That has happened to me in runs, and so it's something that you got to be constantly cognizant about. And that's why I think that this is a game where it's just like you might think that there's a lot of movement to it, a lot of movement sections, but even in those sections that isn't very skip heavy, you want to consistently be paying attention, just so you don't unnecessarily lose time because you forgot to do something or you did something one too many times. So with that being said, level 31, of course, freedom is right there. The bridge is going to come across. We're going to be going to freedom. There's an open door on the other side of that chasm. All we have to do is cross the bridge. There is certainly no possible way that this could go wrong, right? I say as I sip a Coke Zero. But of course it has to go wrong because nothing can ever go right. That is another fall that definitely should have killed us, but because we are the main character, we do not die. However, the game does have a nice little touch where your movement speed is ever so slightly decreased because you just did suffer a huge fall. But we just kind of walk it off because the moment that you enter level 32 and that level loads in, our movement speed just goes back to normal again. But in level 32, we are actually going to enter a pretty cool skip that really takes advantage of how tight, or how like, yeah, how tight the connections to these orbs can be with each other. As you can see, it's incredibly red. It is going to burst and it is going to turn dark at any moment, but you can see they're really pushing the limits by having that orb right there. So instead of doing the intended solution, we can just barely ever have the orbs line up so that we can exit the level right here. I tend to opt for a slightly safer version of that only loses like a second, in which you kind of like the initial orb, you kind of move back to a position in order to make the line straighter. Some runners don't do it. I do. It's too far into the run to be that risky with things. And so, as you saw there, that's actually like a really fast rail grind, because sometimes when you rail grind off of a moving platform, you can kind of preserve the speed that you get from it. It'll give you a bit of a speed boost. In comparison to just like normal walking. And so that's something that's very useful. You only really get to see it in level 33, specifically in this level for some reason. Like, it doesn't really happen that much in the other sections where you rail grind. And so level 34 is another level that's kind of like a big lore drop. We can see Ellen has kind of been uncovering a lot of the mysteries and unsolved crimes of light matter technologies. We got introduced to Arthur, which is Virgil's partner, and all the things that he's been up to, kind of how they were at like butting heads, and they each had different visions for light matter and what they wanted to do. And Virgil, as we can see, kind of has this vision for light matter in which he wants this world to kind of just be overrun by light matter and doesn't really care about the harm that it will cause. He's very much a like sacrifice the few for the sake of the big picture, you know. And so in the run, we're going to be seeing later in the game, you're going to be finding out that he is like not a great person, and that he wants some people to die for the sake of like light matter in order to, in the long run, help the human race. And so that's like a very cool like lore drop there. It's a very dramatic game with a very dramatic plot. It's something that I highly recommend like checking out if you have the chance, for that alone, even as a casual experience. And so right now we're just going to be going straight to level 34 again, like the second half, and we're going to be seeing that sometimes shadows are just normal. You're actually not afraid of dark. If you turn off the lights in your room right now, you won't die, if you could believe it. It's only the specific shadows that are covered in like this shiny tar-like substance, or the shiny shadows as I like to call them. And those are the ones that will kill you. Those are kind of like, they have a substance that will kill you. And so now we're going to go straight to level 35. One thing that I will mention is that there is a little bit of a portal reference here. If you look on the on like the right side of your screens, like right now, you can see that there's a little bit of a gun, or a little bit of a companion cube, and also a turret. Oh, I'm sorry, a weighted storage cube. I always get corrected on that. A weighted storage cube and a turret from Portal, in order to give a nice little nod to the universe of Portal and the inspirations this game has. Overall, level 35 is a level that's, again, the intended solution, but fast. It does kind of look like we're going back and forth, but that's of course, you know, it's because we know what we're doing. We know exactly what the solution is and how to optimally do it right here. Level 36 is actually pretty interesting because it's a level that's pretty movement heavy, and it's something that you want to keep in mind, and you want to like be very cognitive and when you're playing this level, because there's actually multiple different ways you can solve this. Of course, the way we do it is the objectively fastest version of this puzzle solution, but it's another level where you kind of just can let your mind go astray, and if you're not paying attention, you can pretty much mess up some basic movement that you don't want to mess up in a run. And so right here, we're going to be going straight over to the other side. We're going to be hitting this button. Of course, it doesn't want to work the first time, but we're going to be hitting it again. We're going to be bringing this mother source here to the upside. You can solidly lined up the two orbs over here so that it can allow us a path to get from one side to the other. And we saw that we put the lamp onto the mother source because we're going to be bringing it over to this left side of the room, and we're going to be timing ourselves to jump right there, and just going straight to the end with this lamp and the orb that we have here. As you can see, with a bit of a time loss we had, this is a pretty optimized run, as you can see, even with just the small minor movement mistakes. There's still like some time loss to be had, and so this is a run that's pretty movement heavy and pretty precise and optimized in what it has, especially at this level. It's such like a higher level of um of skill, I should say. And now we're going to be going straight here into level 37 piano keys, which is a really cool level from a design perspective, especially because of the skip that we're going to be doing here. This is another level where it's like actual like multiple ways you can solve it. The way that we're doing it is not any of those intended ways. But instead, we're going to be shining this lamp onto here. We're going to be bringing this lamp over, or this orb over, and so it's going to connect with the initial orb we placed over there in a very specific spot, so that the connection between those two orbs is not white, it's not red, but it's pink, because we want it to shine on the sensor, but not too far onto the sensor. We're going to be taking this lamp, and then we're going to be shining it over here so we can exit the level later, and then we're going to be grinding across the small like the edge of that bridge that comes out, so that the light does not shine back on the sensor, because if it does, it'll like retract the bridge from underneath us and then we'll die. And so that is level 37 and the level 37 skip. And level 38 is coming up. Level 38 is actually the last level of the game, but it's also the longest level of the game, because it's kind of like a huge escape sequence. The last level of this game is mainly cycle based, and so there's a lot of stuff that you want to keep in mind when it comes to this. A lot of movement that you want to be pretty precise with, because it's going to affect the cycles that you get. But one good thing about this level is that this is actually the only level in the entire game, because it's so big, it doesn't load in like all at once. It loads in chunks, and so we're going to see that and how it kind of affects the run. This is another good downtime moment, like for the runner to like take a breather, because we do have to fill up some time with this cutscene that's around 2 minutes long at the end of the run. This is kind of the last breather that the runner gets before the grand hoorah at the end. And so right here, we're going to be seeing Virgil is going to tell us that, you know, we can just like rot here in this section, because he doesn't care about us. Of course he doesn't, because he's just the corrupt CEO, only cares about his vision and what he wants for Lightmatter and how it's going to affect the world. But we're going to get a call from Ellen. This is actually the first time that we'll be hearing both Virgil and Ellen in this run, since usually we put on the developer commentary for this game. And so you can see Ellen right there on the bottom. We can see her trying to contact us, and so she's going to give us like a solid method of communication and a method of exiting this level with all of our body intact. And so she's going to be giving us a plan in order to overload the core. We're going to be activating all of the different lasers that'll shoot at the core and kind of brighten it up. We're going to overload it so that it completely destroys Lightmatter and the plan that Virgil has. As you can see, that's the only like visual indication that we get of Ellen in this run, and so everything else is just kind of like voice recordings that we hear. So with that being said, we're just going to be going straight into level 38. This is the final level, and we're going to go straight into some very specific movement and very like precise and very optimized movements, so that we can get all the fast cycles, which we do get in this run. And that's great, because level 38 is actually the source of a lot of time loss for a lot of runners, especially starting out, because they get like the cycles messed up, and so like dying on this level or losing a cycle on this level can be pretty detrimental. But thankfully this level also has like fast respawn, and so they don't lose as much time as like a normal level would. And so right here you saw that we got the first fast cycle by getting into the first piece of light that we saw without the fan blade covering it up. And now this is the next chunk, and so as soon as we get in here to this room, that light will always turn off, and we're going to time ourselves so we can immediately jump onto this section, of course, and do the exact same thing here. This kind of loads into a chunk with this next room, so we want to be pretty quick. As soon as that second light lights up, we can jump onto this first light, and that'll allow us to get the fast cycle for this next room with this elevator right here. And so that's the end of this chunk. in the next chunk, it will load in right now into this room. And we're going to be loading in the next few cycles. This next cycle is a really precise one that I've had a lot of time and deaths to in previous runs, but we can see that we got it here first try. You want to be able to time your jump so that it's just as at the moment that the light appears, and it's safe for you to stand on that platform, you're able to do it, and that allows us to get a faster cycle here on this platform, so we can jump up. Even with a little bit of like movement mistake, you can see that it actually didn't lose any time because we're able to get the fast cycle either way on this specific section. Think of it as like a bus, as you can see. So as long as you're there before the bus gets there, you will save time. And right there, we're going to be, this actually, next section was dependent on how fast we pulled that lever, because that's when this next section loads in. So we're going to be pulling the lever, it'll overload the core, and it'll light up, and we can just let this object move out of the way so we can try to get the fast cycle for this next room. It's going to be platforms ejecting in and out of the wall, which we do get the fast cycle for just barely. Boom, boom, boom. Before it goes into the wall and kills us. At this point, Virgil is very mad at us, and he is going to try and kill us by covering us up with shadow, but he is just too slow for us. We are too fast, and so we're going to be keeping our lines tight. And this is another moment in which we can see pretty easily that we're able to avoid any of the ledge grab animations there by avoiding like the striped bars. And so right now we're going to be doing another fast cycle by just getting along these lights right here, avoiding the fan blades in this room, and of course we're going to be getting a fast cycle here on this lift because of that. And we're going to be trying to get not a fast cycle but a really cool skip in this section, where we're able to get to the first button in this room that'll open up the door to the end after getting through here. It's all because of Arthur. So we're going to be pressing this button, and then this skip allows us to jump here. There is no death plane on these, like, on those tubes for some reason, in like the very center of the room. And so we're able to jump on them and then skip the entire like fan cycle going around the room, instead we can just go through it and jump onto those cylinders right there, which is really cool. We're going to be activating the core again, and we're going to be loading up right here. Another overloading the core. It's kind of like a flashing lights warning because this room is pretty bright, and so that's something that we're gonna have to keep in mind, of course, in the run. And it allows us to, as soon as we overload the core, we're able to just get through here. Certainly this can't be good for like health and radiation and stuff like that, but we're being directly exposed to Lightmatter in the same room as it. And so we're gonna be going straight through here, and we're going to be doing a actually pretty like minor skip in this next room, but it's a skip that like it's shockingly hard and difficult to pull off, of course, keeping our corners tight, jumping over rails whenever possible. And the skip is right here. It's pretty simple. We're just going to be able to jump right here, ledge grab onto that corner, and skip like going around and all the platform that comes with it. But it's surprisingly finicky. It saves more than a second, which is good, which is great. And so with a time as optimized as Lightmatter time we've gotten, that skip is definitely worth it, but it's a lot to do. It's surprisingly a lot to do. Virgil is really, really angry at us right now, and understandably so, but like he doesn't have to go. He doesn't pop off like that. He really doesn't. And so there's 3 cycles left. This cycle specifically, I'm actually very glad that it is the way that it is. We thought there was a faster cycle for it, but then that faster cycle was proven to not be faster. And so we were like risking ourselves unnecessarily. Instead, we're just going to be playing it safe by going here onto this platform right here instead. And so we're just going to be calling it very safe. And right here, we're just going to be jumping across, getting onto this platform, just barely making it, and we're gonna have one last fast cycle here before we finish the game. Boom, boom. All right, and with that, that's kind of the last cycle. That's pretty much the run. We're just gonna be going across this lift here. It'll bring us to the final room, and once we overload the core, that's gonna be the run. It's gonna be time. And so, as you can see here, Virgil is calling us James, the mountain of a man himself. We think that he's here to kill us and to help Virgil, but thankfully James has a heart of his own, and a very warm one at that, because he is going to pretty much sabotage all of Virgil's plans right here in order to help us and break free of Virgil's grasp and Virgil's control. And now we're going to go straight down here, and as soon as we hit that lever at the end, that will be time. And so that's pretty much Lightmatter. It's a wonderful run and a lot of really cool things like skip after skip after skip that we saw. So really, really, really eye-catching, and really like a wonderful run for audiences, and to be able to do it like maybe the first time in person would be absolutely amazing experience. So that's 44:18:82. That's going to be our time there. And I absolutely love this run and everything that this run like has in it. It was the first run that I really took seriously, and because of that GDQ 2021 run, I was able to really get into speedrunning and finally like try out speedrunning for my own. And now I'm here trying to submit it myself to a mainline, and because of that, I was able to get a lot of different experiences with GDQ and speedrunning as a whole. And so I'm very glad to be showing this off and submitting this. I hope that y'all love it as much as I do, and I'm just super excited to have an opportunity to show this off if y'all will have it. So that is all from me. That is Lightmatter, any percent, no major glitches, and I'm hoping y'all can have a wonderful time watching this in the review process, and give it a wonderful consideration for SGDQ 2024. And I hope y'all liked it as much as I love running it. With that being said, my name is Osborne, and I'll see you around.